This ice cream cake is so easy to make and looks just as good as anything you could buy in the store.
Let's see what's cooking. It's time for yoyomax12.
Hello everyone, starting off with a 9-inch springform pan. Now what I did is I sprayed a little bit of cooking spray just on the inside of the sides, just so that the parchment paper would stick a lot easier. Cut out some pieces of parchment paper so that they were the same height as the inside of the pan up the sides. And I'm just lining the sides of the pan all the way around until all the sides are covered. Now the next thing to do is to crush up some Oreo cookies. You want to crush up 15 Oreo cookies. And what I did is I put mine in my little food processor, and it's just a tiny little thing, so I could just do a few at a time. And I crushed them up so that they were mostly fine crumbs, but it had some larger pieces in it as well. Now the original recipe where I found this idea said to add a tablespoon of milk to the crumbs and then put them back in the food processor and to process them until all the crumbs kind of were a little bit softer. However, I didn't want to put this back in my food processor, so I just stirred it around with a spoon. And essentially what it does is it softens up the crumbs a little bit, so when you put them in the bottom of your pan, it'll make a better base. Now for the ice cream sandwiches, you will need between 7 and 10 ice cream sandwiches, depending on the size of them. I ended up using 7 of them. So you're going to cut them in half lengthwise and then in half again widthwise. So you end up with 4 equal pieces. And this works better when your ice cream sandwiches are nicely frozen. Then you're going to place them along the side of your pan, like a little wall, all the way around, and put the cut side in so the pretty side is out. And continue all the way around. And just make sure they're nice and snug in there. And then add the crumbs in the middle, and then you're going to pat the crumbs down to try to get them to be even and make like a crust on the bottom. Then you're going to put this in the freezer for at least an hour. Now we're going to add some ice cream in the center. Now the original recipe that I found used 3 kinds of ice cream. I'm only using 2, and I'm using a couple of different flavors. This is a butterscotch ripple ice cream. This is Chapman's ice cream. It's a Canadian brand that we have here, and it comes in a cardboard box. So it's really easy to cut and slice it. So I let it sit on the countertop for about 10 or 15 minutes to let it soften up a bit. And then I took slices of the ice cream and put them in the center. Now you want to put your first flavor of ice cream in the center so it comes up to about halfway up the sides of your ice cream bars. And then flatten it down to make sure you don't have any gaps. All the way around. Now I decided to add some caramel sundae topping and some chocolate sundae topping in the center. And now that I've made this once, if I were to make this again, I would actually add some Oreo crumbs in the middle as well to give it a little bit more texture. Then you're going to add your second kind of ice cream. This is just plain chocolate, also Chapman's. And slicing that up, and I'm going to fill it up until it is just under the level of the top of these ice cream bars. As you will see soon. I used a spoon to flatten that all down to make sure it was nice and solid. And there were no big air pockets in there. And then finally, top it off with some sweetened whipped cream, or in this case, I'm using Cool Whip, which is a dessert topping, and spread it around so as you can see it reaches the top of the ice cream bars. And then you can decorate as desired. So what I did is I put that Cool Whip in a piping bag with a star tip and went around and just made a pretty little flower kind of border all the way around. And after I did one row, I thought that it was a bit too thin, so I went around and did a second row of those little star shapes. And then in the center, I added more crushed Oreos, about another maybe 5 cookies worth in the center. And as an extra touch, I added more chocolate and caramel sundae topping drizzled over top. Then you're going to take this and you're going to put this in the freezer for several hours or overnight to make sure it freezes nice and solid. Here it is the next day. I wanted to show you how easy it was to cut up So you're going to take off the sides of your springform pan, peel off the parchment paper, and then you're just going to slice it up with a knife. This serves a lot of people. Now, depending on how many it serves will depend on the portion size, of course. If you cut it so that each person gets 3 ice cream bars on their piece, then you will end up with 9 portions. If you give a piece that's a bit smaller with just 2 ice cream bars, then you're going to be dealing with more like 14 servings, let's say. And this slices beautifully. Now, normally getting the first piece out of anything is usually the most difficult, but there's the first piece, just beautiful, looks great from the sides as well with the 2 different colors of ice cream. Now, just the entire dessert on its own just looks really, really good. And I tell you, this would be as good as anything you get at a store like Dairy Queen, or if you were to go to your local grocery store that sells ice cream cakes. This is really, 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 really attractive looking. And it tastes good too. I mean, it is ice cream after all. The Oreo cookies add a nice crunch. Now you can see those little dots on the ice cream bars. I actually used salted caramel ice cream bars, so I had these little dots of caramel in them. That's where that comes from. So this is really good. It looks good, and you know what? It'd be a great, impressive dessert to serve at a party. No one will know how easy it was to make. Now, I have a few other ice cream goodies on my channel, including this Kit Kat ice cream cake. This is actually a cake that I made for Max for one of his birthdays. It is really good and also quite easy to make. So if you want to watch it, go ahead and click on your screen. Bye-bye.